IR related issues. Today is one of the, we can say, a day which created a tussle between India-US economic relations. India-US economic relations. That is particularly GSP, Generalized System of Preferences. GSP, Generalized System of Preferences. So, in prelims you may get a question, what is the difference between most favored nation and generalized system of preferences, or which country recently announced that it might revoke GSP for India. These things might be questions, or they may ask you a question, what is GSP? They may ask you a question, what is GSP? Now try to understand. GSP is not unique to America. America gives GSP, UK, France, Japan, etc. They allow small countries to export their goods for a free of cost or with a lower tariffs or zero tariff, low tariff or zero tariff. Why? There are two reasons. The first reason is to encourage the poor countries and developing countries to be globally competitive in exports. To encourage the poor countries and developing countries to be globally competitive in exports. This is the first reason. And the second reason is, if they get the goods, more and more goods from the poor countries, they also get some comparative advantage in the beginning. So GSP is not just offered by America to other countries, but also by the rich countries like Japan, UK, France, etc. They also offer similar models of preference. That's called GSP. In America, based on Trade Act 1974, they started giving GSP for developing and poor countries. As on date, 121 countries are getting benefits from GSP. As on today, from America, 121 countries are getting some export tariffs, zero export tariffs or minimum export tariffs from America, 121 countries. India is one among the countries, and India and Brazil are the top beneficiaries according to the international estimates from this GSP. India and Brazil, they are the top beneficiaries from GSP. You may get a doubt, if a country gives GSP to some countries, is it not against MFN principle in WTO? In WTO, there is a most favored nation clause. It means there should not be any discrimination. If you treat one country in a particular way, you have to treat all other countries in the same way. No trade discrimination. MFN means when you extend a benefit to one country, you have to extend the same benefit to all the member nations of WTO. That is called MFN status. But WTO itself exempted this GSP from MFN. MFN status, the rules relating to MFN will not apply to GSP. The reason is GSP has been made to help the poor countries and developing countries. So, in the name of most favored nation rules, we will not stop GSP. GSP will not be stopped. Even WTO, World Trade Organization, also have exempted this GSP from MFN rules. So, you can carry GSP, Generalized System of Preferences. There is no problem with it. And there is a organization in America, US Trade Representative Office, USTR. There is an institution in America called USTR, US Trade Representative Office. According to this USTR, regularly USTR reviews under what are the goods and products for which we can extend GSP. what are the goods and products for which we can extend GSP. So it regularly reviews. And here from last 1.5 years, there was a trade war in the world between America and China, between America and European Union. Each side are imposing tariffs on the other's exports. So in a way, it's a tit for tat war. When America imposed tariffs, China retaliated. When America imposed tariffs, European Union retaliated. Now, America imposed tariffs on Indian aluminium and steel products also. India wanted to retaliate. 6 times it postponed. And one more review is going to come up on April 1st this year. American companies and Trump says India is not allowing reasonable and equitable market access of American goods into India. Their complaint is India is not allowing reasonable and fair market access of American goods into India. That is the reason why India should not be in the GSP. America should withdraw GSP to India. That is the reason they told. But according to Commerce Ministry yesterday, India is not going to affect much through this withdrawal of GSP. Most of the Indian goods go without any GSP route. But according to estimate of experts, $5.6 billion of Indian exports to America will get affected by this withdrawal of GSP. $5.6 billion of estimates of exports will get affected according to the estimates. But according to Ministry of Commerce, the volume is not this much, which is routed through GSP. And next important thing, if India gets GSP, definitely India will have better trade with US. But now there is an effect on India. There is no doubt about it. Is it a way to control the trade war, or is it a way to control the developing and poor countries? This is a question. As Trump has sent only a letter to the House of Representatives and Senate, there is 60 days time now for talks. This GSP might not, this withdrawal of GSP might not affect in a full way, because India can negotiate talks. India can have talks, India can negotiate a deal so that GSP will be continued and India will also give certain treatment to America. So in the increasingly integrated world, particularly economic integration, these type of withdrawals or this type of tit for tat arrangements do happen, but both the countries should act prudently and should bring out a viable solution. This is about generalized system of preferences. It's very important news today in the newspaper. Simple question, what they will ask in the exam is, India-America economic relations, what are the recent setbacks or what are the recent strengths and weaknesses? There you can even write about strategic trade authorization. America granted STA to India, strategic trade authorization to India, to boost up defense ties between India and America. Now high quality and high technology weapons can also be sold to India from American companies. So in a way, America is supporting India in STA. Now it is saying that it will withdraw GSP to India. So Indian goods like chemicals, gems and jewelry, dairy products, all these will get affected if GSP is withdrawn. Particularly chemical industry, gems and jewelry, dairy products, all these things. And in America says India wants data localization. India is not allowing 100% FDI in various issues. India is restricting on e-commerce. So America is saying all these things. Now that is the reason why America is intending to withdraw the GSP, generalized system of preferences. They may give even 10 marks even in mains about India-America economic relations. This is a important thing. And next issue in IR is WTO, World Trade Organization. WTO. First of all, let us look what are the questions that were asked about WTO in the previous question papers. In 2016, Just simple question. Blue box, green box, amber box. Subsidies are related to WTO. Blue box, green box, amber box. All these subsidies are related to World Trade Organization. So first of all we should know what is this WTO, when it was formed, and what are the issues relating to WTO. In the year 1944, the victorious countries of the Second World War, they have met at a place called Bretton Woods in America. They have met at a place called Bretton Woods in America. They wanted to form international economic institutions to support the sovereign nations, because if a human being gets financial problem, he can go to a bank. If a country gets a financial problem, that's called sovereign debt crisis. That is called sovereign debt crisis. Where should the country go? How the country can redress the grievance? So to tide out these problems, the countries decided to establish three institutions. One is IBRD, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Second is IMF, International Monetary Fund. Third is ITO, International Trade Organization. Third is ITO, International Trade Organization. IBRD and IMF, they have created, but ITO has not been immediately created. IMF and IBRD were immediately created. They were created during the same time. For that reason, IMF and IBRD are called Bretton Woods twins. They are called Bretton Woods twins. Twins means they are born together. ITO did not have taken place immediately. In the name of GATT, General Agreement on Trade and Tariff. In the name of GATT, it was formed in the year 1947. In the name of GATT, it was formed in the year 1947. And in the year 1995, WTO stepped into the shoes of GATT. In the year 1995, WTO stepped into the shoes of GATT. The first thing which we have to remember is why GATT was transformed into WTO. Why GATT was changed into WTO. The reason is, first thing, GATT was an agreement. WTO was an organization. GATT was an agreement. WTO is an organization. Second thing, GATT deals only with goods. WTO also deals with services. WTO also deals with services. Third thing, GATT do not have proper dispute resolution mechanisms. They don't have structurized dispute resolution mechanisms, but WTO have a structured dispute redressal mechanisms in cases of international trade. So WTO stepped into the shoes of GATT. WTO has an institutional form, an organizational form. WTO works from headquarters Geneva, and we have to remember a point here. Though we have one more organization called WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization, the agreement called TRIPS, T-R-I-P-S, the agreement called TRIPS, T-R-I-P-S, Trade Related Intellectual Property Rights, was made under the auspices of WTO, not under WIPO. TRIPS agreement was made under the auspices of WTO, not under WIPO. So we have initially three organizations in mind, but two were created, and later on in 1947 GATT was created. In 1995 WTO stepped in the shoes of GATT. So this is one thing. The next thing, what questions this year they might ask in WTO. See, first thing, WTO, in the sense we have to remember a point. The point is, WTO meets biannually. year after year, not every year, biannually. In 2017, WTO meeting was held, summit was held. Next meeting will be held this year. And what are the terms that were used? What are the terminology and jargon we have to remember is important. First is, in WTO, the first thing which we have to remember, it was formed in 1995 based on Uruguay round. Based on Uruguay round. Second thing, Dunkel's proposals. For the creation of WTO, there was a man called Dunkel. His proposals are very famous. WTO was created based on the recommendations of Dunkel, D-U-N-K-E-L. So, two things before the advent of WTO you have to remember for exam. One is Dunkel's proposals, second is Uruguay round of talks. Dunkel's proposals and Uruguay round of talks. And next thing in WTO, what is the composition of WTO? What is the composition of WTO? In WTO, the organs are TPRB, Trade Policy Review Body, TPRB, Trade Policy Review Body. Second is Dispute Settlement Body, DSB, Dispute Settlement Body. Third is Appellate Body. From Dispute Settlement Body, if you want to appeal, you can go to Appellate Body. So, TPRB, DSB, AB. TPRB means Trade Policy Review Body, DSB means Dispute Settlement Body, AB means Appellate Body. So, there are many issues in WTO relating to India also. There are many issues in WTO relating to India. And here in WTO, relating to WTO, we have a group called G33. G33. We have a group named G33. G33 works for WTO reforms. G33 works for WTO reforms. India and China are also the members in G33. And in most of the WTO issues, India and China fight together as friends. In most of the WTO issues, India and China fight together as friends. G33. And in the IR language, there are two G4s. There are two G4s. One G4 is related to UNSC reforms. One G4 is related to UNSC reforms. India, Brazil, Japan and Germany. For UNSC reforms, particularly to gain veto powers. For UNSC reforms, particularly to gain veto powers and to gain permanent seat. To gain permanent seat in UNSC, these four countries are fighting. To gain permanent seat in UNSC, these four countries are demanding. That is G4, Group 4, India, Brazil, Japan and Germany. There is one more G4 in WTO. With respect to WTO, there is one more language called G4. Two developing and two developed. There are two developing members and two developed members. G4 in WTO. US and EU on the one side. US and European Union. America and the European Union. India and Brazil. There are total 4. That is G4 relating to WTO. So, there are two G4s. One G4 is relating to UNSC reform. They want permanent seat in the UNSC. They want permanent seat in the UNSC. And the other G4 is WTO reforms. And for the first G4, that is permanent seat in the UNSC, they want permanent seat in the UNSC. To counter this G4, to counter this permanent seat candidates, permanent membership candidates, permanent membership demand, Coffee Club was formed. Coffee Club was formed. Coffee Club. The nickname is Coffee Club. The original name is Uniting for Consensus. Uniting for Consensus. There are members like Argentina, Turkey, Italy, Pakistan. They are the countries who do not want to open up UNSC furthermore, even if you open up, don't give it to G4 countries. There was a group called Coffee Club. Coffee Club is also called as Uniting for Consensus, where it aims not to expand UNSC. Even if you expand, don't give to these countries. Okay, this is called Coffee Club. That is against first G4. And second G4 contains 2 developed and 2 developing. That is WTO G4. Okay, this difference you have to understand first. And G33 is relating to WTO reforms. G33 is relating to WTO reforms. Even that is very, very important. And now with respect to WTO again, what are the terminologies that are used in WTO? Where are the summits that were held? First of all, you should know the latest summit of 2017. It was held at Buenos Aires. Latest summit of 2017, it was held at Buenos Aires. After WTO was formed in 1995, the first summit was held at Singapore 1996. The first summit was held at Singapore in 1996. Then in 1998, it is held at Geneva. 1998, Geneva. In 1999, again they held the summit in 1999, Seattle. SEATTLE, Seattle. In the year 2001, Doha. In the year 2001, they held a WTO summit at Doha. Always we used to say Doha round of talks, Doha agenda. This is Doha. Next, 2003, Cancun. CANCUN. 2003, Cancun. 2005, Hong Kong. 2005, Hong Kong. 2009, Geneva. 2009, Geneva. 2011, Geneva. 2011 also Geneva. 2013, Bali, BALI. 2015, Nairobi. 2015, Nairobi. 2017, Buenos Aires. 2017, Buenos Aires. Now, what are the things which you have to remember? One is Singapore 1996, other is 2017 Buenos Aires, and the next summit might be held at this year, might be Kazakhstan, capital Astana. The upcoming summit might be held at Kazakhstan, Astana. Here in WTO, China is demanding for market economy status. In WTO, China is demanding for market economy status. What do you mean by market economy status? It means market demand and supply will decide the exports and imports and the prices, but not the countries. Government controls. China wants market economy status. That means I like to trade anything with you. Government should not decide, the prices are controls. Only market forces decide. This is called market economy status. India, America, they are strongly objecting for this. China should not get market economy status. If China gets market economy status, you know what will happen? All the other countries' shops will be closed down, because China will start dumping. China will stop dumping. Okay, so first is China is asking market economy status. It did not get till now. What is market economy status? Market forces will determine the prices, demand and supply. Government should not control it. If government should not control it, what will happen? China will dump the goods, because Chinese goods are cheap. Chinese goods are cheap. So this is first thing which you have to remember, market economy status. Second concept in economy, particularly international economy, which is in news, is beggar thy neighbor concept. Beggar thy neighbor concept. BEGGAR, beggar, THY, thy, neighbor concept. What is this beggar thy neighbor concept? This concept says, see, for example, I am China, you are India. I am China, you are India. What I do, I will intentionally decrease the value of my currency. if I decrease the value of my currency, the cost of my goods will also come down. If I decrease the value of my currency, the cost of my goods will also come down. Understood? Okay. If the cost of my goods are come down, say for example, your good, you are selling a pen for 10 rupees. I decrease the value of my currency. That means I can give for 5 rupees. Generally, customers will purchase in the cheapest possible market. So they will purchase from China. China intentionally in 2015, for example, decreased the value of its currency so that its goods have become much more cheap in the international markets. Automatically, people will go to the states, will go to their Chinese shop, but not to the Indian shop. Slowly, Indian shops will be closed down. When all Indian shops are closed down, automatically countries go bankrupt. So this is the plan of China to intentionally decrease the value of its currency. Okay. This is called beggar thy neighbor. By following cheap exports policies and also by following devaluation of currency, by making our neighbor country, we are making our neighbor country to fall, their business to fall. This is called beggar thy neighbor policy. Generally, countries like China adopt this. Countries like China adopt this. Okay, remember. And we have one more term in economy, invisible hand. Invisible hand. What is invisible hand? Invisible hand means, see, take Ola, Uber. They are doing business, but they are also, by doing business, promoting infrastructure, promoting transport, promoting employment, doing lot of things. In a way, indirectly it is benefiting everyone. It is benefiting the country. So, an entrepreneur, if he does a business, do it only for profit. But some invisible hand works and indirectly people also get benefited by it. This is called invisible hand concept given by a thinker called Adam Smith. Invisible hand concept given by a thinker called Adam Smith. Let the economy be laissez-faire. Let it be a free market. Let the entrepreneurship survive in the world. Automatically the fruits will come down. This is called invisible hand concept. And in these concepts, generally WTO works to provide a level playing field in the international trade, to ensure a level playing field in the international trade. So for that reason, first of all, WTO, even before WTO was formed, in the GATT, an agreement was signed called AOA, Agreement on Agriculture. An agreement was signed called AOA, Agreement on Agriculture. According to AOA, the subsidies on agriculture should not cross 10%. The subsidies on agriculture should not cross 10% based on 1986-88 price levels. Based on 1986-88 price levels. So, in India, we had Food Security Act. To provide subsidized food grains for the people, WTO rules obstruct India. So temporarily, India signed a peace clause with America that India can go temporarily with its Food Security Act. Now, countries like India, China, they are all asking for special safeguard mechanisms, SSM, special safeguard mechanism. See, certain agricultural products, farmers and poor people, developing countries should safeguard them. They cannot compete with developed countries. So they are asking for SSM. SSM means special safeguard mechanism. But temporarily, to provide food under Food Security Act, to provide food grains for a subsidized price under Food Security Act, India signed a peace clause. India signed a peace clause with America 4 years back. You may get a question, what is a peace clause? In the WTO terms, it was a special temporary relief to India to provide subsidized food grains to the people. India signed peace clause with America. In the same way, there are two important jargons that were present in the WTO language: tariff trade barriers, non-tariff trade barriers. Tariff means taxes, customs duty, countervailing duty, all these things comes under taxes. If you impose some restrictions based on heavy taxation, that is called tariff trade barrier. For example, if China is selling some cereals to India, levying more tax on China is a tariff trade barrier. Non-tariff trade barriers means environmental barriers, child labor issues, or something like hygienic issues, sanitary, phytosanitary issues. For example, Indian Alfonso mangoes were banned because there were some chemicals on the mangoes, and tuna fishes sometimes were banned because while fishing the tuna fishes, some of the fishermen are polluting the marine environment. Not only that, killing the other living creatures. So these things are called non-tariff trade barriers. Tariff trade barriers are related to money. Non-tariff trade barriers are related to other issues other than money. Even this difference you have to remember. But for this year, the most important thing is MFN. For this year, the most important prelims question is MFN, most favored nation. Most favored nation does not mean you are treating some nation most favoredly. The name is a misnomer. If you read the name, you will get confused. It's not the name as it looks like. It is, if I am extending some benefit to someone, I am extending the same benefit to you. I am not treating anyone specially. If I am treating somebody specially, I will also treat you specially. That's all. So equivalence, proper treatment, non-discriminatory treatment to all. It is called non-discriminatory treatment to all. Okay, this is called MFN. MFN status. And today we have news GSP, Generalized System of Preferences. So these two things are very important terms this year. And coming to the 11th Ministerial Summit, Buenos Aires Summit. The 11th Ministerial Summit, Buenos Aires Summit. There are 164 members as on date in WTO. 164 members as on date in WTO. And MFN status, as I told you, it's important. You have one more word called de minimis clause. D-E-D-M-I-N-I-M-I-S. De minimis. De minimis clause in WTO. De minimis clause means minimum amount of domestic support. Minimum amount of domestic support. The domestic support which is allowed in international trade. De minimis clause means the domestic support which is allowed in international trade. What do you mean by domestic support allowed in international trade? It means, for example, our farmer is selling some product for export. He is exporting some product, giving power subsidies, giving MSP, or say giving some fertilizer subsidies, or trying to give him seed subsidies. All these things comes under support, domestic support to the farmer. So how much amount of support we can give is called de minimis clause. De minimis clause. And one more term is, as you already know, green box, amber box, blue box. Like traffic lights, green box are allowed, amber or orange is not completely allowed, and blue box completely banned. So it's like traffic lights, green box, amber box, blue box. In 2016 the question how come? Green box, blue box, amber box are related to WTO. So green box subsidies that do not distort the trade. Green box subsidies do not distort the trade and they must be allowed. Example, disaster relief subsidies. During disasters giving some subsidies, or farmer training programs. Disaster relief subsidies, farmer training programs, or environmental conservation programs, or pest disease control program, So all these things comes under green box. They are not trade distorting. Amber box. The subsidies that will distort the trade, to an extent. Example, input subsidies such as electricity, seeds, fertilizers, etc. See, for example, minimum support price comes under amber box, MSP comes under amber box, and blue box are really dangerous. They are not allowed. Blue box is dangerous. For example, the latest example is Raitu Bandhu, PM Kisan, Pradhan Mantri Kisan. They come under blue box. So green box, amber box, blue box. Subsidies are of 3 types. Blue box are allowed. For example, farmers training program. Amber box, MSP comes under amber box, and blue box. So there are 3 types of subsidies: blue box, amber box, and green box. And next term is with respect to WTO. Intellectual property rights, IPRs. Intellectual property rights. What is intellectual property right? The property created by using human mind is called intellectual property right. The property created by using our intellect is called IPR. Generally IPRs come under WIPO, but the TRIPS agreement was made under WTO. Okay, we have one more organization called WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization. WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization. The headquarters of WIPO are also at Geneva. Okay, but TRIPS agreement was made under WTO. So WIPO was created in 1967. It was created in 1967. At present, there are 191 members in WIPO. So I will take a separate lecture on IPRs, intellectual property rights. At present, there are, just remember, 191 members in WIPO. And what is a petrostate? What is a petrostate? A state whose economy is completely dependent on oil is called petrostate. Petrostate is an informal term where government's income is deeply based on imports, reliant on exports of oil and natural gas. Petrostate means government's economy is related to exporting of oil. That's called petrostate. And in that state, generally political systems are very weak, unaccountable. Venezuela is the best example for petrostate. Okay, done. Next, IMF and World Bank. International Monetary Fund and World Bank. The basic difference between IMF and World Bank. What is the basic difference? IMF is only for balance of payments problems. When there is a forex crisis, then IMF will come. World Bank is for infrastructural lending. It lends loans for infrastructural projects. But the very basic question for prelims is, What does World Bank contain? What are the institutions in World Bank? What do you mean by World Bank group? And what are the indexes provided by World Bank? Indexes already I have given the list, I think you can take. But difference between World Bank and World Bank group, difference between IMF and World Bank. These two questions you should be very serious about, World Bank and also IMF. So first thing, World Bank group consists of 5 organizations. World Bank group consists of 5 organizations, total 5. First, IBRD, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. First, IBRD. Second, IDA, International Development Association. Second is IDA. Third, IFC, International Financial Corporation. IFC third. Fourth, ICSID, International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes. ICSID, International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes. Next is MIGA, MIGA, Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency. MIGA, Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency. MIGA. These 5 put together is called World Bank Group. And the first 2, IBRD and IDA, is World Bank. First 2 is called World Bank. If somebody calls it as a World Bank, it means IBRD and IDA. If somebody calls it as World Bank Group, IBRD, IDA, IFC, MIGA and ICSID. Clear? First you know this difference. And second thing, the basic difference between IMF and IBRD, I will give a list, kindly note it down, bullet points. Basic difference, IMF and IBRD, or IMF and World Bank. IMF and World Bank put together are called twins, Bretton Woods twins. IMF and IBRD are called as twins, Bretton Woods twins, BRETTON, Bretton, WOOD. IMF and IBRD are called Bretton Woods twins because they are born together. First point. Second point, they both are headquartered in Washington DC. Washington DC. Third point, World Bank is dominated by America, IMF is dominated by Europe. World Bank is dominated by America, IMF is dominated by Europe. Generally, World Bank president will be the American chosen person, IMF chief will be the European choice. Okay. So, World Bank is dominated by America, IMF is dominated by Europe. Next thing, IMF gives short term lending, World Bank gives long term lending. IMF lending is short term, 3 years, 2 years, sometimes 6 months, whereas World Bank 15 years, 20 years, sometimes grace period 25 years. IMF will give short term, World Bank will give long term. Next most important point, IMF works only to gives loans to solve BOP crisis, balance of payments crisis. Solve BOP crisis, balance of payments crisis. Whereas World Bank gives infrastructural lending, long term infrastructural projects, that is particularly IBRD. And in the group, each and every organization has its functions. This is about IMF, this is about difference between IMF and World Bank. First you should understand. And next thing is, next important question for prelims, what do you mean by SDR? What do you mean by SDR? Special drawing rights. Special drawing rights. Here the questions which we can expect in SDR. Which of the following currencies are in the basket of currencies in IMF? Which currencies come under IMF basket of currencies? US dollar, Japanese yen, British pound, Chinese renminbi, and European Union's euro. Use euro. So there are 5 currencies in basket of currencies. In 2016 renminbi was added, total 5. Earlier it was 4, now it is 5. Dollar, yen, pound, euro, renminbi. Dollar, yen, pound, euro, renminbi, Chinese renminbi. These 5 currencies comes under basket of currencies under IMF. Now, these basket of currencies, IMF maintains its own currency based on, so they will take the average, they have a calculation, based on that there will be IMF currency. IMF will not print the currency, but IMF currency have a value. IMF will not print any currency, but it was just a book entry. It was just a book entry. And special drawing rights are the rights given to the member countries to draw certain amounts from IMF under IMF currency or foreign currencies, which are only book entries. SDRs are basically book entries. And when you get the STR, for example, I am India, I got 100 SDRs in IMF. I can use this book entry for repaying the loans, or paying some export bills, or paying some foreign currency bills. All these things I can manage. So SDRs is a right of a member of IMF to use certain amount which is kept at IMF, but the amount will not be in the physical form. And the most important thing is SDRs form part of forex reserves in the country. RBI maintains forex reserves, you know that, foreign exchange reserves. In India we have around how many? More than $400 billion forex reserves. In that we have SDRs also. We have SDRs, we have gold reserves also. Not only foreign currency reserves, we have SDRs, gold reserves. In I think 2013 or 14 prelims, this question was asked. Either 2013 or 14 prelims. Forex reserves contain, Indian forex reserves means it also includes gold reserves, it also includes SDRs, it also includes gold reserves, it also includes SDRs. Okay. Special drawing rights are the special benefits to the member countries of IMF, where they will have power to draw the particular sum based on IMF value of currency, so that the country in emergency can use the money for repayment of certain things. Okay. One SDR value around is $100 today, means around $100. Exact amount you can check. One SDR is equal to $100. SDR is an international reserve asset. SDR is an international reserve asset created by IMF. In the 1969. In 1969, to supplement its member countries' official reserves. SDR is an artificial currency, not original currency. An SDR is an artificial currency instrument used by IMF. An SDR is an artificial currency instrument used by IMF. IMF uses SDRs for internal accounting purposes also. IMF uses SDRs for internal accounting purposes also. And SDRs are allocated by the IMF. SDRs are allocated by the IMF to its member countries. And are backed by BACKD and are backed by full faith and credit of the member countries' governments. And SDRs are determined not on fortnightly but weekly basis. The value of SDR every week they will determine. Remember, the value of SDR every week they will determine, not on fourth night. Every week they determine. Next, for example, if you get a prelims question, Forex reserves in India consists of foreign currency assets, gold. One is foreign currency assets, second is gold, third is special drawing rights, fourth reserve trench position, fourth is reserve trench position, POSITION, reserve trench position. Okay, this is about SDR and forex reserves. We'll start.